Okay, let's get started here. We are doing the video now for learning check number 10 in geometry. I will work through these problems with you. Make sure you take good notes so you can retake this learning check for a higher score. Let's start with number 1. Directions. State if each triangle is acute, obtuse, or right. So this is where we go c squared and we compare that to a squared plus b squared. And the key is getting the c squared, or the c, correct. And the c is always the biggest number. And I'll circle it. It's the 74.5. Now the a and the b don't matter because we're just going to square them and add them together. So I'm going to write this as 74.5 squared, a blank, and then I'll write 70 squared plus the 23.7 squared. So I'm going to pick up my calculator, and I push in 74.5 and square that, and that comes out to be 5,550.25. My blank. I'm going to press clear. I'm going to go 70 squared plus 23.7 squared, and that comes out to be 5,461.69. And I want to compare those two numbers. And it looks like the first one is bigger than the second one. So my symbol, all the way around, did that wrong, sorry, would be a greater than symbol. Because the first one is greater than the second one. That means my answer is obtuse. This is a obtuse triangle. Just for the sake of time, I'm only going to work out the odd numbered problems with you. So let's jump ahead to problem number 3. Let's do it the same way. It's the same direction. I'm going to circle my C. So it's going to be 29 squared. And I compare that to 4.8 squared plus 28.6 squared. So calculator, 29 squared is 841. And I compare that to 4.8 squared plus 28.6 squared. And that comes out to be 841. Was that less than, greater than? It would actually be equal to. And that means this triangle is a right triangle. In other words, I could come over here and put that box in the corner. They're equal, so it's a right triangle. Moving up. Again, just the odd number problems is all we have to do. Let's jump to number 5. Different directions. Find the missing side length of each triangle. Round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. This is the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You have to get the c correct. Well, I like to find the right angle and look directly across. So the 15.8 is the c. The a and the b don't matter. So I'm going to write this in this order. X squared plus 4.4 squared, that's my a and the b, equals 15.8 squared. So then I'm going to continue. Bring down the x squared. 4.4 squared is 19.36. 15.8 squared is 249.64. I would solve this by subtracting 19.36 from both sides. So this is eliminated. X squared would equal, I'll subtract those two numbers with with my calculator, it's 230.28. My X answer is the square root of 230.28. And I get 15.17. Got to watch my rounding. 15 point. Now I want the nearest tenth. 15.17 rounds up to a 0.2. 15.2 would be my answer. Let's do the next one, number 7. Up ahead here. Which one is my C? Right angle, directly across. 15.6 would be the longest. So I could write x squared plus 10.9 squared equals 15.6 squared. I would have x squared plus 10.9 squared, and my calculator gives me 118.81 equals 15.6 squared. That's 243.36. I would subtract 118.81, and that gives me x squared is 124.55. So x is the square root of 124.55. So in my calculator, that gives me 11.16. So that rounds up to 11.2. Nearest tenth, again, means 1 decimal place. Let's continue with number 9. Which one is my C? There's my right answer, and it's the X this time. So I'm going to write this as 8.8 squared plus 6.4 squared. That's A and B equals the C squared, and I leave that as X squared. So 8.8 squared plus 6.4 squared. I just add those together. That's 118.4 squared. I'm sorry, 118.4 equals x squared. So in other words, x is the square root of 118.4. My calculator gives me 10.88, so it rounds up to 10.9. 10.9 would be the length of this side. So again, the length of my hypotenuse is 10.9. And that would be km, which stands for kilometers. All right, we're ready for number 11. Again, just doing the odds here. Let me go to this one. Number 11, different directions. Find the missing side. Lengths, 2 answers. Length is plural. Leave your answers as radicals in simplest form. So we have this. Looks like a 45, 45, 90. So I'm going to draw one the same shape. My hypotenuse is 2. I'm sorry, square root of 2. And both of my legs are 1. I get that from the poster. I would set up x. X would correspond to the square root of 2. So x over the square root of 2 would equal, I need numbers here. How about this? Square root of 2 over 1. And now cross multiply. X times 1 is just x. And the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 4, which simplifies just to a regular 2. So x equals 2. Let's now find the y. I'll circle this y. It corresponds to this 1. So I write y over 1 equals, and I would use the same fraction second time, which is the square root of 2 over 1. So I cross multiply. Y times 1 is just 1. The other direction, 1 times the square root of 2 is the square root of 2. There's my two answers for x and y. Let's do number 13. Clear my screen. I can advance. 13 is another 45, 45, 90 triangle. So let's draw one that resembles it. Hypotenuse is square root of 2. My two legs are both 1. So let's find the x first. X corresponds to the other triangle of square root of 2. So x over the square root of 2 would equal, let's use my numbers now. This 4 and that 1 go together, so 4 over 1. Solve that by cross multiplying. X times 1 is just x. 4 radical 2 is just written like that. Don't multiply those together and get 8. You cannot multiply those. Now let's find the y. I'll circle this y. It's going to correspond to that 1. So I write y over 1 equals, and I use my numbers again, 4 over 1. We'll cross multiplying. That's a y. Cross multiply the other way. That's a 4. And that works out nicely. No simplification required there. So there's my two answers, x and y. Two more. Let's jump to number 15. Now this one's a different triangle. It's a 30, 60, 90, which is no big deal. Let's draw one that resembles it. Oops, that doesn't resemble it. Sorry. I wasn't paying attention here. Let me start over. It goes this way. There's my right angle. Well, I like to start with the hypotenuse. And from the poster, the hypotenuse is 2. The shortest side is always 1. Leftover side is square root of 3. So let's figure out the x first. So x looks like it corresponds to the square root of 3. So I write x over the square root of 3 equals, and let's do my numbers here. It's 4 square root of 3 over 3 over 2. So it's 4 square root of 3 over 3 all over 2. And I cross multiply. So x times 2 is 2x. Now this one's a bit tricky. I'm going to write it like this. 4 square root of 3 over 3 times the square root of 3, and technically that's over 1. Now let's multiply that. It's going to be this. 2x would equal 4 square root of 9 over 3. Square root of 9 is a regular 3. And I can just cancel out those fours, and I've made a mistake somewhere. I've made a mistake. X over 3, 4 square root of 3 over 3. I'm looking for a mistake here. Oops, I see it. It's right here. This should be, maybe it's a different color, the square root of 3. I apologize. I just missed that radical, which is really going to change my answer. So again, this needs to be the square root of 3. So we'll continue 4 times 3 over the square root of 3. So I get 12 over the square root of 3. Still don't have it right. over 33. Oh, let's do this. I've really messed up this problem. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. I hope you guys have good erasers. 4 square root of 3 over 3. Nope. This needs to be a 3. So I have 2x equals 4 times 3 over 3. Ah, I see what I did. I can mark out these 3's and get 4. I think I was doing this right to begin with. 2x would equal 4. And I looked at my answer key and thought, no, the answer is not 4. I've done something wrong. But I have forgotten that I have to divide by 2. So even your teacher gets confused sometimes. I just happened to look over my shoulder, checking my answers, and my answer key says x is 2, but I looked and saw this answer of 4. Well, what did I do wrong? I simply forgot the 2, so I have to divide by 2. So I was doing it right at the beginning. I apologize. Again, I hope you guys have good erasers, or just write it off, draw an X through it, and copy that down on the rest of your paper. Let's do the last one, and I will try my best now to do this one correctly. So let's do number 17 together. This is a 30, 60, 90. So let's draw a triangle the best I can. Something like this. Hypotenuse is 2. Short side is 1. Leftover third side is the square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 2. Short side 1. Okay, that looks right. I'm really checking my work here. Let's start with the x. X goes with this 2. So x over 2 equals my numbers here. 6 and 1. 6 over 1. Cross multiply. Looks like x is going to be 12. And I look at my answer key, and that is correct. My answer key is sitting on the desk here behind me. So that one's fairly simple. Let's now do the y. This y corresponds to square root of 3. So y over the square root of 3 equals, I'm going to use the same numbers, 6 over 1. And cross multiply. Y times 1 is just y. And 6 times radical 3, that's, don't make that 18. Just write it 6 radical 3. I'm going to circle that, peek behind me on my desk, and that is correct as well. All right, that is the odd number problems. Come in with some questions, and let's redo this for a higher score. Hey, thanks for watching.